this on my own. It's lonely in the cold, yet even through the rain, the sun gives light to a brighter day. And as the seasons change, I'll find a way with grace to a hope that lasts forever, and put the pieces together.
Good afternoon. Welcome to another video session with Glenwood Community Church. Let's go to the Word, Lord, in prayer. Lord, thank you for this time we can get together and do another video session, and just pray for all the people that are sick right now with this COVID. And Lord, I just pray to get me in and get my surgery done on my leg, and try to get me a non-COVID room when I'm there. So just bless this session in your name. Amen. Okay, just going to recap real quick. Samson, we're in the story of Samson. One of the judges in the first session we went over was his birth, the angel of the Lord, or Jesus appearing to the mother and the father being fearful, the mother having a faith to know that this was of the Lord. And then we have Samson being born, and then Samson actually going and looking for a wife amongst the Philistines, the pagan worshipers, against his mother's and father's request. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to read, let's see, it's chapter 14, verse 10. And this was after he had killed the lion and ate the honey out of the lion. So his father went down to the woman, talking about the woman that he was going to marry. Samson gave a feast there for the young men. For the young men used to do so. And it happened when they saw him, they brought 30 companions to be with him. Now those weren't Samson's companions; those were Philistines. And you have to remember now, this is a situation where he married a pagan. They were unequally yoked. So let's continue on, and actually, this feast, it's more of a tradition. You could look back at Genesis 29:22 when you have a chance, and Jacob, who was working 7 years to get the right to marry Rachel, and Laban, her father, gathered his guys together in chapter 29, verse 22, and they had their feast. So it was more of a tradition, but actually, it's actually really a bachelor party. When you stop and think about what Samson's doing here, man, they're throwing him a bachelor party. And I can remember my son's bachelor party, which I was invited to, was simply a round of golf with a great feast at a buffet. And mine was pretty simple. My bachelor party was few family members and friends and my dad. We had pizza and then got in a car crash after. So that was a rather unique bachelor party. And no, nobody was drinking and driving. And but it just happened that we got in a wreck the night before I was to be married. So let me read on. And so then Samson said to them, "Let me pose a riddle to you." This is one of the games, like nowadays, I guess they got these drinking games and whatever. But Samson is posing a riddle to these 30 guys. If they can solve the riddle. Let me read to you. It says, "Let me pose a riddle to you. If you can correctly solve and explain to me within 7 days of the feast, then I will give you 30 linen garments, 30 changes of clothing. But if you cannot explain it to me, then you shall give me 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothing." And they said to him, "Pose your riddle that we may hear it." So the gauntlet's thrown down. He's getting ready to get a riddle. And this riddle's cool because this is something he just did that nobody knows about. "Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet." Actually, he was talking about the lion he killed and then took the honey out of the lion. "Now for 3 days, they could not explain the riddle. But it came to pass on the 7th day that they said to Samson's wife, entice your your husband, that he may explain the riddle to you, or else we're going to burn you and your father's house with fire. I guess these guys were pretty serious. These Philistines were serious about answering this riddle. So they threatened to burn her and her father's house with fire. But that's on the seventh day. In between the third and seventh day, she'd been begging for him to explain the riddle, so she could go tell her, her friends, and then they could solve it. And finally, as she kept weeping and begging, and said, "You only hate me. You do not love me. You have posed a riddle to the sons of my people, but you have not explained it to me." Remember, her people are pagans. They are unequally yoked. And he said to her, "Look, I have not explained it to my father or my mother, so should I explain it to you?" Now she had wept on him for 7 days while their feast lasted. And it happened on the seventh day that he told her he had enough, because she pressed him so much. Then he explained the riddle. Then she explained the riddle to the sons of her people. She let it out of the bag. So the men of the city said to him on the seventh day, before the sun went down, "What is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than the lion?" Now, I can imagine how Samson felt, also betrayed, angered. We're going to see here in a minute what happens when you anger Samson. And he said to them, the 30 companions, if you had not plowed with my heifer," I had to laugh because, I can't remember ever calling my wife a heifer or any other female for that fact, but this is what he used as an example. He says, "If you hadn't just begged and implored my wife to give you the answer, then you would not have solved my riddle." Now, what he meant by plowed with the heifer is, remember we talked about in the past, unequally yoked. Well, that means that you have maybe a smaller cow with a larger cow. They're not equal. They're not equal in size. They're not equal in strength. You're never going to get a straight line out of them. And that poor little cow is going to get run into the ground. He's not as strong. And they're yoked together with that bar that connects them. Well, that's what we're talking about when we say unequally yoked in a marriage. Unequally yoked. That means, guess what? You guys aren't the same. And this one's saying, you know what? You're a Philistine and you're an Israelite. How much farther apart can you get? You worship the one true God. You worship pagan gods. How's that marriage going to work? First of all, did he listen to his mother and father when they told him? No, he didn't. He went off on his own. And being the human that he was, his eyes made the decision on who he wanted. So here we are. He has just got done calling his wife a heifer, and he owes these guys 30 garments, 30 linen garments, and 30 linen cloths. Listen, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of work back then. Plus, you got to figure there was 30 companions. So he had to get 30 of each. If they lost, each one of them only had to get one of each. It would have no big deal to them. Odds were in their favor. So then the Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily. When did we hear that before? Right before he was going to shred that lion. And so the Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily, and he went down to Ashkelon, which is a neighboring city. He killed 30 of their men. Now, stop just for a second. He killed 30 of their men. He was a judge. He was trying to protect Israel in the first place. So every mistake that Samson makes, God uses for the right purpose. He uses to protect his Israel. He made a promise to him, and that's what he's doing. And so he used Samson's weakness, got him angry. He went down there and killed 30 men. And so he had a great reputation against the Philistines, and they were all afraid of him. He killed 30 men, took their apparel, and gave the changes of clothing to those who had explained the riddle. All right. Those guys were probably going to go buy the clothes and give it to Samson, and Samson chose to go kill 30 men, take the clothes off their back, and give it to him. Again, that the Lord came upon him. The Lord put this in front of him. So his anger was aroused. Now, he wasn't just mad at those guys. He was upset at his wife. His wife just, she jumped teams, man. She turned her back on her husband or future husband and went with her people. Again, they didn't believe in God. They believed in pagan idols. So he was angered and aroused, and he went back up to his father's house. And Samson's wife was given to his companion, who had been his best man. Here's the situation. He didn't want his wife. And he just left her. He got up and left. He was so angry, so upset that what she did. And in reality, she pretty much caused the death of those 30 men. Although it was their fault for trying to get the information out of her. But he was so angry, he left his wife. And so as you have it, the father of the wife, who was also a Philistine, he gave his daughter to the best man. And you got to go back and realize that best man wasn't a true best man, because Samson didn't have a best man. There wasn't any other Israelites besides his mom and dad probably at that feast with the Philistines. So this was a companion who of the bride, who she brought to be the companion and the best man for her husband Samson, and 30 of her companions who he probably didn't know. And so he was so angry, he walked away, and the father gave his daughter to the best man. Now that might sound a little weird to us today, and that's because it is weird. I don't care what age you're living in, that is just weird. But it was the father's choice. He figured that Samson hated her, which he probably did at that time of his life, that exact moment. And I think whether you're a Christian or an atheist or worshiping something other than the true God, when you're unequally yoked, these things come up always. That's why it says, don't be unequally yoked. That's why it tells you when you marry, and I'm not saying marry within a race, don't get me wrong. I'm saying you're married within your faith. If you're a Christian, you believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross for you, rose again. You marry somebody that has that same faith, that same belief, because these things are going to come up. They're going to come up on a daily basis sometimes, and they're going to create issues in your family. And if you're supposed to be subservient to your husband and you're a Christian woman, that's hard to do because you need to serve God. So as you can see, when we always talk about unequally yoked, it's originating from the oxen or the cows that are plowing up the field. They need to be matched up so they could get the job done. But really that example is used for a lot of things. If you're going to go into major business, major corporation, when your business partner and you guys have two completely ideas on serving God, then there's going to be issues. That's just the way, that's exactly what it says. So I'm going to leave you today. It's a little shorter than usual because I didn't want to climb into the next section, because the next section picks up from there and goes on to a different story. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it short right there. But I want to leave you with a couple thoughts. I want you to seriously think about what unequally yoked means. I want you to seriously think about how many different things can happen. Think about this. This is a very simple one. If you're brought into the world with two very different religions, let's just use Jehovah Witness and a Baptist. You fall in love, you get married, and one of you believes in a triune God, the other one doesn't. One of them's praying to somebody different. The other one doesn't believe that when they die they're going to go to heaven. They believe they're one of the 144,000, which mathematically speaking, there's over 6 million Jehovah Witnesses. So who's going to heaven? Which 144,000? They got it backwards. What are they going to draw lotteries to see who goes to heaven? I don't know how they're going to do it, but can you see the conflict that that's going to create? And then, lastly, there was a reason that in the Ten Commandments, God says to honor your mother and your father. There's a big reason for that. And I'm a great example of a young man who did not listen to his mother growing up, probably quite a few times, but the one time that it cost me, I'm in great pain today and have been for quite a while with my knee. And, hopefully, Lord willing, I get in this week or next week and have surgery, but this is an injury that happened when I was 17 years old, and the reason it happened is I didn't listen to my mom. She told me, I don't want you to do that. And I said, I want to do it. She said, I don't want you to do it. I said, I want to do it. So I went out because I hammered her, just like they were pressing on Samson's wife. I was pressing on my mom hard. Come on, Mom, I need to play football. I got to play football. And I was lined up to play baseball professionally, and I could not pass a physical after my knee injury. So that was over. Why was that over? Because I didn't want to listen to what my mom said. So stop and think about this. I know a lot of us at that age think we know everything, but we don't. We don't know anything. And what I know now is, fortunately, I did listen to my mom about a lot of things after the fact. But God asks you, man, you know what? Honor your mother and your father. Listen to them. Take the advice. They have more wisdom than you do. And do not be unequally yoked. And thank God for 47 years, I've been married to the same wife who believes the same thing I do. And, it doesn't make life easier, but it makes it right. And that's the beauty of that. So I'm going to close quickly in prayer and look forward to doing next week, unless I'm in surgery. If I am, you'll get a rerun. If not, you'll get original. Lord, thank you for this time. Thank you for the examples that Samson gives us of being human, of making mistakes, of not listening to his parents, being unequally yoked, letting his eyes decide who his wife is going to be instead of praying to the Lord for the woman that he should have been with. And because of this, we can get these lessons. We can understand that it hasn't really changed. Some of the traditions have changed, but the same meaning, the same thing, the same requests are still good today. So ask you to open the ears of those hearing and help us to share it. It's something that we should be able to talk about. And Lord, just thank you once again for all the blessings that you give us each and every day. We ask in your name. Amen.
The beating of my heart is deafening, but I'm still listening. In the silence after the storm, your voice will bring